there will always be an incentive. It will always be related to it's going to be related to the vision of the people running the business, right? Like you can't say that there is a general, everybody, you could say that everybody wants X, everybody wants more money or something like that, but that really doesn't seem to be the case, right? Like I think in general
Mm.
there's going to be somebody that has a vision out there that wants to be able to do something that's able to take one company from one thing to another, or they can see the potential of what this company is going to become, right? And I think if we look sort of, maybe in a short-term scale, it is, yeah, increase guest satisfaction, increase, turnaround time, or something like that. There are all these short-term sort of goals and things like that. But I think, like every business in the world, you can't really generalize. You can't really say what the vision is, right? Like, and even that idea, it's sort of, I think companies have they kind of have a personality, right? And I think like even something like the an ability for a business to change from one thing to another, from Netflix to go from a DVD rental service into a giant streaming platform, where even if you see right now, and who knows what it looks like in the future, but maybe a lot of Teslas are going to really focus in on, no steering wheels. They're just going to be sort of self-driving cars, and then potentially that discussion that, the future of let's say XAI and things like that are actually tied to Starlink, where they're going to run AIs on satellites that are powered by the sun. And I think these are the long-term sort of visions. It's a little bit more than just make more money, hire more people, or whatever it is. There is this long-term vision of how the world could be different, right? And I think that as long as there is something new to learn, as long as there's something to change, as long as there's some way that you can innovate, and you have people as part of your company that's making this happen. I do think there is sort of a need to make sure that all of the members of your team are caught up, and they're not just caught up on how to do these three things. It's why are we doing these things? What is the bigger picture? What are we all working towards? Um, and given that, how would you solve a new problem that just popped up in the last 3 months because the world has changed again? So I think there is a lot of reason, but it has to align with what is your company, your business, your organization. What is the big picture? What is the vision that you've kind of joined on board with? And because that's never static, there's always a need to sort of, have everybody on your team be aligned and that sort of thing. And I think that's part of it. That's sort of like the big incentive, right? It's not just more X, it is well, we're all trying to, achieve this vision together. And you know what? We're up against, five other companies trying to do something different, right? Or maybe the same, and we're all competing. And I think that sort of is an incentive to really, increase the capabilities of your team, increase every single, every member of the team, right? I think that's part of it. And then I think the other part of it is just the bar coming so low for some of these things. When you used to talk about setting up a training program, setting up a certification program, tracking video evidence and keeping these records. I think I think when we started, having cell phones and mobile data and all these things, every phone has a camera, every phone can record video. It definitely shifted in terms of like bringing the bar down for storing this kind of documentation and making this available everywhere, and making it easy for even a small company to develop a pretty robust training system.
Yeah. I mean, I will be the dirty capitalist and say that yes, and all true, but at the end of the day, a business, unless if it's a for-profit anyway, still has to make money or it's dead. So at the very least, you can look at it through the lens of, okay, can my training make our business more efficient? Or can our training make our staff perform better? Or can our training prevent fewer mistakes that lead to insurance claims or fines from whatever
Yep.
governing body regulates our industry? So even it, you know,
There will always be a
e-
short term and there's always a long term, right?
yeah. So even without that big picture vision that you're trying to move people towards, which I feel like a lot of it is company culture, but even just on the dollars and cents side, I think there are commonalities across all businesses that are for profit anyway, in terms of what they're trying to accomplish and how training can help these businesses reach certain objectives, even though the underlying problems aren't necessarily the same, even though the underlying training itself is not going to be the same, even though the culture will be different, even though the long-term vision for the organization may be different. Um, I'm thinking more in terms of training impacting key performance indicators at a business, impacting revenue at a business, and going beyond a checklist and actually assessing whether or not people are competent in their job is a good starting point for helping move some of the metrics that actually matter to your business rather. Um, and even if you're talking about the culture side, uh, assessing whether or not somebody's a good fit for your culture, or teaching them about your culture and your company's vision or the direction you're headed, um, or trying to train out people that are, you know, maybe a little bit more critically thinking and with a vision a little bit, or their eye a little bit more to the future of what's possible. I mean, all that can be incorporated into a training program to some extent or another.